Hey there! Super excited, per usual. I always say that. You guys, today's the day. Butterscotch Bourbon Budino, which is essentially pudding with a salted caramel sauce. I'm not messing around. I'm going big. I'm going high calorie. It's got a little booze. I love boozy desserts personally. If that's not your thing, this isn't gonna be a recipe. There's plenty of other great ones out there. But I made this last Christmas. I did a short little video where I was just showing a really simple party tip when you're entertaining, make ahead things like dessert. And I think I showed how you can like make your whipped cream. And I did actually a cinnamon bourbon whipped cream to go on top of this. But I'm finally sharing the recipe with you. It's a little more, not complicated, but it has a few more steps than the average thing. But with the holidays coming, this might be something you want to try and tuck away. It is fun. It feeds, it's supposed to make 10 6-ounce portions, depending on how much. Ours are going to be a little bigger. We're taking this to a little thing we're going to be socially distanced at tonight. And anyways, it's just a winner all around. It is so luscious, so creamy, very decadent, so full of flavor. I cannot wait to share Butterscotch Bourbon Budinos with you. Let's get started. Hi. Okay, so in my pot right here, I've got some dark brown sugar, water, and salt. That is gonna go on, I believe it says a medium-high heat, and I'm supposed to allow it to kind of come boil, almost make like a caramel base. This is that butterscotch flavor is gonna come from this. So this is gonna do its thing. Meanwhile, this recipe really is a lot about mise en place, meaning everything in its place. It's a French term. And if you have everything measured and kind of ready to go, you're gonna be so much more organized. So I already measured out my heavy cream and milk. And again, I'll have all the recipe details listed below the video so you can see all the details. But I wanted to show you, if you have never really separated eggs, I love to speak to the people who don't necessarily know how to cook. So if you're like, dude, separating eggs, that's easy, then this isn't your tip. That's okay, you can fast forward. So it calls for 1 whole egg and 3 egg yolks. So I want to show you, in case you've never done it before and you're like, what does that mean? Some people talk about cracking an egg on here. That is not a good idea. It takes the shell and pushes it into the yolk, potentially giving you eggshells in your eggs. You don't want to do that. I always crack on a flat surface. So I'm going to go over on my counter right here and crack, just kind of give it a light tap, and then twist it. So my thumb is where the crack was. And I'm going to peel this gently open, and then with my shell, go like this. The other method, if you are not comfortable with this, kind of letting it roll back and forth between your shells, letting that white drain off, you could also crack the entire egg into the bowl, and then with your hands, fish out the yolk, and then just pop the yolk in there. So that's how that is done. I'm gonna hand it a quick rinse. Yeah, big tip, don't crack your eggs on the edge of a bowl. You do run the risk of getting eggshells. Crack them on a flat surface and then use your thumb and peel them open. Makes it really easy for the back and forth with the yolk, and you let the whites drain in here. You can make yourself a little omelet if you want, or just toss it. But this is now ready to go for the next step. This is gonna be kind of cooking and doing its thing. So 3 egg yolks, 1 whole egg, and then a whole lot of cornstarch. That's gonna be the thickener. And this is gonna just be sitting here off to the side, kind of waiting, ready to go. And we're gonna do something with this mixture in a little bit called tempering the eggs. And what that means is I'm gonna take a little bit of this hot mixture. I'll be adding the milk and cream to this and letting it cook for a little bit. And then I'm gonna take this hot liquid and pour a little bit in here, bit by bit, so that I don't cook my eggs, because I don't wanna scramble them, but I will help bring them up to temperature. So in the recipe, one of the first steps it calls for is to do your eggs, cornstarch, and set it aside. I think that also will help bring this up to more of a room temperature, helping have less of a chance that your eggs will scramble. So I'll be demonstrating that for you guys in a little bit here, but we're gonna let this stuff get cooked, and then I will show you the next step. All right. Okay, another good tip. Have your milk and cream out at room temp because you don't want to shock this too hard with really, really cold. It's been about, my timer's about to go off, it's about 7 minutes. That's what the recipe calls for. It's really hard, but you can see it's just bubbling up. So you want a heavy bottomed saucepan that's relatively deep. And when I add this, it helps that I have a little pouring bowl, but I'm gonna add this and it might, sometimes it can kind of froth up a little bit, but it's not. So I'm gonna whisk as I add my heavy cream and my whole milk. This is not one of those recipes you wanna mess about with. Don't do any non-fat, none of that. If you're worried about the calories, then don't make this recipe, pretty much. So I'm gonna whisk this, and now I'm gonna bring this mixture up to a boil. So I'm gonna crank my heat back up. My last temperature was on a medium to medium high heat. But you kind of got to get that dark brown sugar cooking so that it gets that yummy butterscotch flavor. This mixture will boil over in 2 seconds, so you've got to watch it. So I'm pulling it off the heat. It'll go from looking like it's not boiling to like bubbling over, okay? So very, very, very important. It's not hard. You just gotta, like I said, you just combine that sugar mixture with the milk. So tempering eggs. I'm gonna show you what that looks like very carefully. So this is really hot. I take a ladle, and I think it's best to use your, probably should switch these two. I'll go on this side and bring this guy over here. So I'm right-handed, so then my right hand's here. So I'm gonna take my ladle, get these guys right next to each other, my whisk full of the super hot liquid. I'm just gonna dribble it in just a little bit at a time while I'm whisking. So what this is doing is slowly bringing the temperature of the eggs warmer and warmer without shocking them and scrambling them. So again, this is not hard. It's just a method maybe you need to try because you've never done it before. So you can see I'm doing it. Anybody could totally do this. Just, you see how long it's taken me to do one ladle. I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna keep whisking. I'm gonna do another ladle. Okay. And you can go a little bit faster now that it's mixed, but I'm whisking and slowly adding that hot sugar and cream mixture. I'll do one more. Not spilling it everywhere. I'm slowly adding this in, whisking as I go. So now that I've quote unquote tempered my eggs, you guys, I can take this and take the whole shooting match and put it in, the big one, whisking again as I go. And now this is essentially your pudding base. So I'm gonna let this mixture cook on like a medium to medium low until it's kind of like simmering and bubbling and it starts to get thicker, because remember those eggs had the cornstarch, and that is what's going to bring that thickness to your budino, your pudding. And yeah, it's not going to take long, but you'll see it get thicker and thicker and thicker. So I'm going to switch to my rubber spatula. Rubber spatulas are great when you make this recipe because you can kind of scrape the sides and skim the bottom so you're not getting a big skin. Already this looks so thick and luscious. Now it's not going to be as thick as it'll be once it sets, but you'll know it'll take just a couple of minutes and it'll just get thicker and thicker. So. Okay, that takes about 2 minutes or so for it to really thicken up. I mean, it's definitely, it's not, you know, completely thick like a pudding where your spoon can stand it, but it's really thick. So I'm going to take it off the heat. Again, I said this was not low-cal, and add in my butter very gently. I've cut it up into smaller pieces, and that's going to go in, and then my favorite part, the bourbon. Excuse me, I'm like choking on my own spittle because I'm so excited about this. So you want to do this off heat, especially if you're cooking with gas, because you don't want to have a fire. But you don't really want to cook the alcohol off in this case. You want that flavor to really be pronounced in there. So this is going to go in here. The butter's going to melt, make it nice and luscious. and then I'm gonna let it cool down just a little bit in the pan, not like completely cool, but give it probably, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna be ladling it into my little bowls and jars that I'm gonna serve it out of. So, hi. So I am just dying filling up these yummy little cups that I have. These are actually, the brand YOPLAIT makes little glass jarred yogurts called Oui, or O-U-I, French for yes. And I saved them, and then I've used them for all sorts of things when I've done some catering jobs and things, so I'm just filling those. But any sort of like small little glass container you have would work. And I don't fill them all the way up because there's a caramel sauce that goes on top of these. And I will add the recipe for my caramel sauce on the side. I'm not going to show it. I don't want the video to be too long. But you could do any kind of, you could do store-bought caramel. But once these cool down, what I'll do is take some plastic wrap and put it on top of each one. Once they cool a little bit more, I'll let them sit out here for probably 10 minutes. Take the plastic wrap and push it on the surface of the Budino. This will help from like a rubbery skin forming, very important. So each one of these, I'll have a little piece of plastic and I'll kind of shove it down on top of the skin and I'll cool them the rest of the way in my fridge. They need to go for about 4 hours. So this is something you can make early in the day if you're gonna have it at night, or you could make it a day before or 2 days before, actually it would work. And then you wanna put the caramel on just a little bit before you're gonna serve it, maybe like in the hour before or right before, and then hit it with a little fresh whipped cream, maybe some crunchy nuts or something on top, and you're good to go. But this is just spectacular and something really special that you can do and maybe feel a little joy as we continue to quarantine. All right, different angle because we're having some lighting issues. So I got my dishes done. You can see my pretty stained glass window from our very old house, but that's not the point. We're talking about this guy right here, the Butterscotch Bourbon Budino. I will research the reason why they call it a Budino versus a pudding. Kind of just sounds fancy to me. Whatever, maybe they just charge us more in restaurants when they call it a Budino versus a pudding. But it basically is a pudding. That's insane. It's an adult pudding because it's got bourbon in it. So I'm actually going to set this down. These are those little jars I told you about. Let this thing set up, poured my caramel, I made my caramel and poured it on there. You don't want your caramel to be super thick, but you don't want it to be hot. So you kind of got to wait with the temperature. Once you do that, then you don't need to have that plastic wrap right on the top. I'm going in, you guys, with a little dollop of whipped cream. Don't mind if I do. Oh my gosh. I mean, let's just, before I even, can you see that? It's just not right. Extra long pause. Holy moly. I love this dessert, and I'm just trying not to think about how bad it is for me. It's a small portion, right? Portion control. You guys, this is so worth it. It is luscious. It is creamy. You get just a little bit of salt from that salted caramel. Definitely butterscotch. It's a hint of bourbon. It's really, really balanced. It's not too sweet. That's one of the things I think that is so surprising with this. The caramel's sweet. The pudding isn't overly sweet. And then I just get these little bits of salt kind of flaking in my mouth. Oh my gosh. You have to make this. Not need to, should, have to. I mean, it's a whole new level of my enthusiasm here. Butterscotch Bourbon Budinos. I'm obsessed. Okay, you guys, delight of the bite. Subscribe, share, tell your friends that I am here. A few more offerings still for the holiday to come, but I don't know what the future holds, but I'm having fun. Thank you so much for watching. Also, you can catch me at Delight of the Bite over on Instagram. I do some various food posts here and there with that one, and love to hear back from you. So if you have any input or feedback, you're always welcome to hit me up. Again, just so appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.